Welcome to the 6th podcast for Ozball Villains. We'll go through the Asian Cup group stage, how that all panned out, as well as a little bit of a round of 16 or knockout preview. I'll go through the Asian Cup fantasy as well quickly, and the tipping competition they have there, which will double up as my predictions. And then we'll just do the A-League as always, the last 2 game weeks for that, as well as again some fantasy and tipping for that. So let's get started. Okay, let's begin with the 2023 AFC Asian Cup. Did a little bit of a preview in the last podcast. Group stages are now done. All the table positions locked in, the third place teams and the knockouts. So we'll get into that soon. It's been a pretty fun tournament. I've watched a few games, especially those early 10:30 p.m. Eastern Coast here kickoff times. Some of those ones in the middle of the night are a bit more difficult, especially during the week. Thankfully, all the Australia games have been the early kickoff. Some of the other good ones have been too. Nevertheless, seen all the highlights and stats and reports and everything else. So it's been a fun tournament to begin with. Let's start with Group A. Final table. I'll just start with the table and then a few results and stuff like that. So Qatar in first place, 3 wins. 5 goals, none conceded, 9 points. Second place, Tajikistan. Fantastic results by them. We'll go through it soon. 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss, 2 goals, 2 conceded, and 4 points. Second place, China. Third, no wins, 2 draws, 1 loss, 0 goals scored, and only 1 conceded. 2 points. And then Lebanon, 4th place. No wins, 1 draw, 2 losses, 1 goal scored, 5 conceded, and 1 point. So, obvious talking point. Well, the main talking point, would be Tajikistan making. I was going to say Qatar going undefeated and not conceding. That's good. They did have the easiest group, and they are at home, and they did win the tournament last time around. But considering their recent form and that World Cup debacle, they didn't embarrass themselves this time. And they finished on top. Perfect results, I think. And they played pretty well. 3-0, 1-0, and 1-0. Again, easy group, but it's still, as I said, you can only play the ones in front of them, as they say. But the main thing for me was Tajikistan. That's just awesome for them. 0-0 with China, which honestly I did expect. China, I just haven't been good in the last 5, even 10 years. They've just been poor, as you can see by these results as well. So Tajikistan, 0-0 with China, only losing 1-0 to Qatar. So it was poised pretty well until the Lebanon game. Halfway through the middle Lebanon game when Lebanon were up. And it took 2 late goals to win it. Great scenes there to see that little Central Asian nation make it through to the next round for the first time. So congratulations to them. I love seeing that sort of stuff. And honestly, as I said, I don't think it was a super surprise. I mean, I probably did put China as second as the safe bet. I would have had Tajikistan as third, maybe as a lucky loser or the third place table. Anyway, it's all hearsay now. But yeah, I'm happy with that. Not that I'm picking favourites or anything, but I like seeing the sort of smaller nations or newcomers to the tournament doing well. So yeah, let's get on to Group B. Australia on top. 2 wins, 1 draw, 4 goals, 1 conceded, 7 points. Uzbekistan in second. 1 win, 2 draws, no losses, 4 and 1 as well. In goals scored and conceded, 5 points. Syria, 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss, 1 goal and 1 conceded. So 1s all across the board, 4 points. And India, just the 3 losses, no goals and conceded 6. So expected results. Australia, a bit of a shaky start. Did get the results though, at least 2-0 1-0, and that draw against Uzbekistan was fair. Uzbekistan are a good side. They're still missing they are going to miss their main player for the whole tournament, Shomurodov, who plays in Italy. Having heard that news, I actually did have them in making the semis, but since they lost that player, I put them as just making the quarters now, but they could make the semis. I wouldn't be surprised. They are a very good side. They always do well in youth tournaments. That crop of players are coming through now, so I do expect them to do well, and I hope they do too. I like them as well. Similar to Tajikistan, maybe I've got a thing for the Central Asian nations. So yeah, expected order and probably points to be fair as well. Although Uzbekistan did expect them to beat Syria and match us, and maybe almost make it on goal difference. Who knows? Maybe we would have tried a bit better had Uzbekistan beaten Syria. Anyway. Syria well done as well, 4 points. So that was a good draw against Uzbekistan. Doing well against us. Only a 1-0 loss. And then, not confident win against India, but they still got the job done. I was going to go through the third place table at the end, but this does show who has made it, and Syria is one of them. Spoiler alert. So congratulations to them. They're through to the next round. So yeah, it's a bit of an expected table. But you never know if these tournaments. There's always a shock here and there, which we will find out soon. So congratulations to those three. Let's move on to Group C. Iran, first place, 3 wins. No loss, no draw. 7 goals scored, 2 conceded, 9 points in total. Second place, the UAE, 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss, 5 goals, 4 conceded, 4 points. Palestine, 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss, 5 goals, 5 conceded, 4 points. And Hong Kong, just the 3 losses, 1 goal, 7 conceded, 0 points. So, again, I think that's probably the expected order. UAE, Palestine maybe could have been flipped, but that's probably fair. Hong Kong on the bottom doesn't look as bad. They did play quite well in some of those matches. Was pretty tough, though. They lost 3-1. Only 1-0 to Iran, and then 3-0 to Palestine. So, yeah, results, just by the results, don't look good, of course. Anyone with 0 points and 1 goal, but bit of a tough group. Anyway, they did well for their, obviously, ranking and their size, so I'm sure they'll do better next tournament. Iran, not too confident coming in. They did start off well, though, 4-1. Then only 1-0 against Hong Kong, as we saw. 2-1 against UAE. They make it on top as expected. They should be building in towards the next rounds. But the UAE Palestine one, 4 each. Obviously, head-to-head is the first ranking, which was a draw. Then it went to goal difference. UAE get them by 1. Now, I think 4 points, well, as we know, 4 points, even 3, you'd be pretty comfortable making it. Not for every team. Of course, 3 is iffy. 4 is very, very safe. It'd be very hard to miss out on 4 points, and would be by goal difference. It'd be very rare to have a third place with 5 points. Very hard, actually. So, anyway, Palestine have made it. Obviously, the difference between second and third is big, but with 4 points, you think you're safe. You do play, I think, a top team from one of the groups. So, obviously, second is better usually if all the favourites win. But as we'll see, it's not always the case. And sometimes finishing second can somehow end up being better, but you can't predict that, especially when goals are scored any minute and the final games are played at the same time, so anything can happen and you can't really plan for such a thing. Anyway, those top 3 have made it. Let's go through to Group D. Iraq, 3 wins, 8 goals, 4 conceded, 9 points. So as I was saying about not predicting all the results, Japan, 2 wins, 1 loss. To Iraq, 8 goals, 5 conceded, 6 points. Indonesia, 1 win, 2 losses, 3 scored, 6 conceded, 3 points. And Vietnam, 3 losses, 4 goals scored, 8 conceded, 0 points. So, very surprised by this group on 2 fronts. Japan, obviously, not finishing top. I would have thought, Iraq's pretty decent, but I thought maybe a draw and 7 points each. But to beat them, fantastic result, 2-1 there. Late goal by Japan anyway, so I was relatively comfortable on the score sheet. And my second big surprise is Vietnam. 0 points, especially starting off. 4-2 in Japan is sort of expected, but they were 2-1 up and playing well. But But then to lose to Indonesia, and then, well, again, I would expect to lose to Iraq. Late goal. But still 0 points. I'm very surprised. They are up and coming. One of the now better ASEAN nations. I think Thailand's still better. But Vietnam, they've been coming up for the last few years, and they do well in the youth tournaments as well. So I'm very surprised that they didn't even get a point in that group. It's a tough group. Japan and Iraq are tough, but Indonesia, that's a big result. But yeah, Indonesia making with 3 points. As I said, 4 is safe. 3 now depends on goal difference in other teams, which we'll find out soon why they made it. But yeah, great result. Indonesia to make it. Japan, as I said, now finishing second. Everyone had them first. That throws off the whole draw. That's why I always thought, I mean, it's easy to say now. I mean, you got to do the predictions, so everyone does. I did my own, of course. But you skip all the way to the final every time and say, oh, we're on Japan's side. This team's not on Japan's side. It just takes one result like that one and it flips the whole draw literally. Anyway, it's all part of the sport and the tournaments, the predictions and the talk about it. But just goes to show no one can ever get it right. So, great group there. And Iraq looking to repeat their 2007 efforts. That'd be a fantastic story. Let's move on to Group E. Bahrain on top. 2 wins, no draws, 1 loss, 3 scored, 3 conceded, 6 points. South Korea, 1 win, 2 draws, 0 losses, 8 scored, 6 conceded, 5 points. Jordan, 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss, 6 scored, 3 conceded, 4 points. And Malaysia, 0 wins, 1 draw, 2 losses, 3 scored, 8 conceded, 1 point. So, again, a bit of a surprise result here. Started off as expected, South Korea winning and Jordan winning. But then the Jordan 2 South Korea 2 draw. And it took a late own goal for South Korea and a penalty. Okay, an own goal by Jordan 2. They cancelled their own goals out. And then a Bahrain 1-0 late winner against Malaysia as well. So a bit of a weird match day 2 there. And then the final match day. I mean, Bahrain beating Jordan is a surprise in itself. But the South Korea 3, Malaysia 3 is unbelievable. And that was a crazy game, literally last night. Malaysia up 2-1. Knew Korea would come. I knew they'd score. Didn't expect 2, but they've done 3-2 up with a penalty from Son. And then a late goal from Morales. And the Colombian born, did they say? Malaysian, unbelievable scenes. Happy for Malaysia. They needed at least a point. They have probably one of the better fans there. The Ultras Malaysia sitting behind the goals. Great scenes there for them. Very emotional scenes. 1 point. Could have been nice to get a win, of course, but you take that point against South Korea. And as I was saying in the commentary, that late goal against Bahrain, however you say it. Well, India wouldn't have made a difference, but they would have gotten 2 points and Bahrain would have gone down to 4. Would have thrown the group off. But at the time when Malaysia was winning, as I was mentioning, they would have been on, I know a lot of ifs and buts. They would have been on 4 points and probably making it. Well, definitely making it, with 4. Anyway, that's how it is. So, yeah, Bahrain making it. South Korea 2 just. And Jordan 4 points was enough to get them through to the next round. Let's go on to the final group of F. On top, Saudi Arabia. 2 wins, 1 draw, no losses. 4 goals scored, 1 conceded, 7 points. Thailand, 1 win, 2 draws, no losses. 2 goals scored, 0 conceded, 5 points. Oman 3rd, no wins, 2 draws, 1 loss, 2 scored, 3 conceded, 2 points. And Kyrgyzstan, 0 wins, 1 draw, 2 losses, 1 goal scored, 5 conceded, 1 point. So, expected for me, I think obviously Saudi on top, Kyrgyzstan on bottom. It was a Thailand-Oman result where we weren't sure what was going to happen. And to be honest, it was the final match day that threw it off. So Thailand beating Kyrgyzstan was expected. Saudi Arabia winning. Oman and Thailand drew. And Saudi Arabia beat Kyrgyzstan. So all expected until the final match day. Now the Saudis did play their reserve side. They already had top spot pretty much sewn up. I think if Thailand had won though, they would have actually jumped them. Anyway, and they did miss a penalty. 0-0 there. Thailand amazing. No goals conceded. So coming into the tournament, they looked a bit crazy. I think the changing of the manager and everything. Not the hardest group in the world, but still Saudi Arabia is a top Asian nation and Oman aren't half bad. But to go in undefeated and not conceding is fantastic, and going through second place. But Oman, disappointing, a late goal by Kojo for Kyrgyzstan to make it 1-1. They get their first points and first goal of the tournament in the last 10 minutes. We'll move on now to the third place table, just to let you know that goal, that kicked them out. So had it stayed 1-0, they would have been up to 4 points and 0 goal difference. So they would have been in clear. 4 points was enough. All teams that would have made it would have been on 4 points. It would have knocked out Indonesia. China were already out anyway. Indonesia would have been out with the 3 points had that late goal not gone in. So Indonesians will be loving that goal for Kyrgyzstan from Kojo. They owe him a thanks. And so the teams that are in the third place were, as we mentioned, Jordan, Palestine, Syria, and Indonesia. It was almost going to be all 4 Middle Eastern teams making it, but Indonesia scraped through thanks to a Central Asian nation. Let's have a look now. Actually, I'll do the knockout stage in the next little section, but I'm just going to look at the way they calculated it, but that looks very complicated anyway. We'll get into the round of 16 just after this, but the teams that have made it, as we mentioned, we'll go back from the start. It was Qatar and Tajikistan from Group A, Australia, Uzbekistan, Syria from Group B, Iran, UAE, Palestine from Group C, Iraq, Japan, Indonesia from Group D, Bahrain, South Korea, Jordan from Group E, and Saudi Arabia and Thailand from Group F. So 16 teams advancing. Overall, as I said, it was a good start, fun tournament, a couple of shocks, good crowds, better than I expected, some great scenes and goals, and yeah, congratulations to all the 16 teams that are making it. As I said, I'll do the knockout round in this next section. Let's get into it after this. So let's start talking about the knockout stage, the round of 16. So we'll start with the first. I'll do it by bracket order, maybe not by match order. It's Tajikistan versus UAE. So Tajikistan looking to advance as far as they've ever gone before in their debut tournament after just qualifying right at the end. That would be tricky, of course, against UAE. Maybe go for a draw, nick it in the end, or extra time or penalties, of course. UAE expected to win that one. I would say they would win. I think I'll do my predictions in the next section with the fantasy tipping on the official website. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a draw. These knockout rounds, some teams can be a bit scared and defensive. So we'll see what happens very, very soon in the next coming couple of days in that one. Next game is Iraq versus Jordan. Bit of a Middle Eastern battle there. Iraq will be going in favourites. Jordan, though, aren't half bad. They did knock Australia out last time. So, was that UAE actually? I can't remember. I'll have to check that. The tournament was in UAE. Again, I would say Iraq win. Wouldn't be surprised if it's a draw. But, yeah, that's a tough one, actually. The winner, of course, playing the aforementioned match. So it could be a UAE against another Middle Eastern side. Hard to predict that one, but I will say Iraq. Then we've got Australia versus Indonesia. So very lucky for Australia. Probably the weakest team to make it in. Cannot underestimate any team, as we know in these tournaments. It is knockout, just takes 1 goal. Indonesia did beat Vietnam. But anyway, Australia expected to win, of course, and we should. Hopefully we do click into gear and not make it hard for ourselves. But that next round, as we say, we're trying to avoid Japan, as everyone was mentioning before, which we will do now, confirmed until the final at best. But now we've got not only either Saudi Arabia or South Korea on our draw, but in the next match. So it's still in the quarters to face that team. So, yeah, let's talk about Saudi Arabia, South Korea. That is going to be a great match. Probably South Korea should win on paper, but the form going in, Saudi Arabia actually, I almost think they'll win. Middle Eastern advantage. South Korea tend to struggle against the Middle Eastern teams as well. That's going to be a great game, though. I have no idea who's going to win, actually. I'm very excited for that one. Hopefully it's in a decent hour. I'll check later down there the result, the hours. But yeah, big half for that draw. So the bigger sizes at Iraq, Australia, Saudi Arabia, South Korea on that side of the draw now, which almost seems to be the tougher draw. On the other side, first match, Iran versus Syria. Good game. Iran should be winning that. Syria have done well so far, though. But yeah, I'd love to see that one as well. Let's see what's going to happen there. The winner's facing the winner of Bahrain and Japan. So now, is this for Japan on that side of the draw now? They're playing Bahrain. They should get the job done. I think they'll bounce back. They'll have a little review after that group stage. They need to do better, especially with that depth and that squad. They have to be, well, as I said, almost not winning is a loss, at least the final. So, yeah. And again, the winner, though, Iran and Japan. So we're going to have an Iran-Japan, again, let's just say all favourites win. Iran-Japan quarters, Australia-South Korea quarters. And then, okay, we'll skip ahead if we want to say that. In the semis, essentially only two of the bigger sides. And then two of the more second-tier sides. I mean, that happens in these tournaments, but sometimes you expect all big four to make it to the semis. Anyway, skipping ahead, as I mentioned, I don't want to do that too much. Then we've got Qatar, Palestine. So Qatar at home against Palestine. That's going to be a good game at home. Let's see if Qatar can keep going and do it again against the Palestinians, as we know what's going on there. So very good result for them and emotional to make it. So well done to them. They play the winner of Uzbekistan and Thailand. I like that game. I think that's a great game. Two of the more, I wouldn't say hipster choices. Maybe me, I like those sort of non-obvious footballing nations. I love to watch that game. As we mentioned, Thailand have not conceded. Qatar have not conceded too. So those two could be both making and playing each other, which means maybe 0-0. So I think your prediction-wise, I think I said Qatar to beat Palestine. I'll do it in the next section anyway. And Uzbekistan, Thailand. Great game, but I'll have to say Uzbekistan. Let's go through the times. The earlier kickoff ones are the ones that say 2:30 here. So that's the Australia game, which is good. I want to watch that. Obviously, Iraq, Jordan, 2:30. Uzbekistan, Thailand, nice, 2:30. And the Bahrain, Japan. I mean, I want to watch them all, of course, but the better time slots are two of the games I do really want to watch. I mean, I want to watch it anyway. So, good. A couple of quarterfinals are also early, but semifinals and final are not. Anyway. Let's have a look at the top scorers from the group stage. Ayman Hussein from Iraq, 5 goals, away to 3, despite not really starting all the matches. Same with Afif, and then a bunch of players on 2 and 1. I'll do maybe more of the stats towards the end of the tournament. Anyway, let's move on to the next section for fantasy, and again, a bit of tipping. Yeah, I'll see you in the next section. So let's talk a little bit about fantasy. I've done it, not fully invested in it, as I said, not like the A-League one or the English Premier League one, mind you. Points were similar to the Premier League, as I mentioned, more like the Champions League, I think, method. A few extra points here and there, a bit more detailed, not as detailed as the A-League one. Anyway, I think I've done okay-ish. So first game week, okay, it's loading up now. I got 40 points. Second game week, 52, and the third one only 35. They do have rolling captains in that, which I think have screwed me over sometimes. And these Saudi a few players didn't play as well. Anyway, yeah, not too much to talk about. I'll just go through maybe the leagues or statistics. Overall, I'm 7,000 out of 40,000, so not too bad. Did make a couple of random leagues on Reddit. And just joined a random few ones. So I seem to be just a bit above half. But yeah, as I said, I didn't do too much research or studying into it. I'm not too invested in it. That's fine. And And it doesn't seem to be set up that well either. I want to actually see which players have been doing well, but it doesn't seem like it's very easily navigatable here, to be honest. So I think we'll just leave it at that, to be honest. If anyone does play, let me know. You can join. I don't know if you can still join the league, but let me know how you did. And the predictor I wanted to go in through as well. It doesn't look like the predictor's even up yet for the knockout stages. So I might have to do that in the next coming days. Get an idea of what I've done. So correct. So got the Uzbekistan result wrong against Syria. Thailand, Kyrgyzstan. I can't believe I said a draw looking back now. Those are only 2 wrong in the first match day. Second match day, I said China would beat Lebanon. Wrong. I said Japan would beat Iraq. Wrong. UAE, Palestine was wrong. That was a draw. Vietnam got wrong against Indonesia. South Korea said would beat Jordan. Wrong. And again, Oman to beat Thailand. I didn't really trust Thailand now, did I? And 3, Tajikistan, I said draw against Lebanon. Wrong. Korea to beat Malaysia. Wrong. Jordan to beat Bahrain. Wrong. And Saudi Arabia to beat Thailand. Wrong. So literally got all Thailand games wrong. And Oman to beat Kyrgyzstan. Wrong. That was a draw. Let's hope that opens up. I'm sure it would. They're just probably organising it. So not too bad there. Fantasy, as I said, not super keen on it. Just for a bit of fun. Just to learn a few more about the players and be more invested in it. So if you did do it, let me know. But I think that's it. I might do a little bit more on fantasy tipping in the next section. But not too much. Next podcast. But not too much. As I said, I don't think it's that interesting. Just a bit of fun, as I said, to be more interested in it. So, yeah, if you did, let me know how you went in that. If not, we will now move on to the A-League. Okay, let's move on to the A-League, where we'll do a review of the last couple of game weeks. Game week 12 and 13, I think... The Unite round, well on here it says round 27 on this app that I use, but that's because that Unite round was an extra match for everyone, just played in the middle. Anyway, nevertheless, doesn't matter what you call it. The first game was MacArthur 3, Western United 3, so a very exciting game there. Davila with a hat-trick. Garuccio did score first, 1-1 at half-time. Pena with 2 goals as well. And then a 90th minute equaliser for Davila to wrap up the hat-trick. Great result. Very exciting game. Davila on and off this season. I think he had a few games where he was quiet, and then he's banging him back in with a hat-trick. I didn't watch too much of this. West United, 26 shots, 3 expected goals. Well, they did score 3. But yeah, MacArthur snatching a late draw there, which they do need. Melbourne City 0 at home, but in Sydney against Western Sydney Wanderers 1. So a Dylan Press goal in the 27th minute was enough to win that one. Again, they were at home. I know it's an extra match, but yeah, it doesn't make them too much sense. As I said, it is an extra match, but they do get the extra advantage. They are playing at home in Western Sydney. So you could argue that City haven't lost anything, because it was always going to be 26 matches. And this was a bonus, which they didn't win, so no harm done. But technically, they've lost goal difference. And obviously, Wanderers have gotten 3 more points. So if it does come down to that towards the end, where the Wanderers make, I don't know, finals or top 2, with those extra 3 points, then you could argue that it obviously does have some weight on the table. And those Sydney teams get that slight advantage. Anyway, it's the first time. We'll see how it goes. And we'll see what they do next season, if they do rotate it or keep it in Sydney. Central Coast Mariners 1, Melbourne Victory 1. Victory in, well, again, it wasn't Gosford, but playing the Mariners again. They just played recently. 1-1, Arzani penalty, and then a late goal from Jing Reese. nicely taken goal there to take a point away from the victory. Literally, pretty even game. That was a good game. I did watch that. Yeah, victory drawing again with a late goal. Well, they have scored some late goals themselves. They conceded a late goal to Perth for a draw, but yeah. Anyway, next game. Adelaide United 4, Sydney FC 3. Casera scoring early for Sydney, and then a hat-trick from Ibasuki. 2 in the first half, 1 in the second half to make it 4-1. Joe Lolly did score 2 late goals to make it interesting towards the end there. That's a good win by Adelaide. They did need that. Sydney, surprised they didn't get the result there, to be honest. Maybe at least a draw, but that's a fantastic game, 4-3. Another great game, Perth Glory 3, Wellington Phoenix 4. Taggart scoring early, then Barbarousis and Rufa. Shushnia with a lovely goal. Tim Payne scoring again. Carluccio making it 3-3 for Perth, and then Costa Barbarousis, as expected, scoring again in some crazy form. I thought this would be Perth's chance to actually get an away win. I don't know if it would have counted. Firstly, their name is at the front, so it's a home game technically, even though it's not. And then they played against the non-home team. So say it was a team from Sydney, then you could probably argue that it was a away win. Anyway, they didn't win, so it's irrelevant now, but I thought that was a chance. Brisbane Roar 3, Newcastle Jets 2. Stamatopoulos scoring. Again, Jay O'Shea getting one back to make a 1-1, then Chandler scoring, and then 2 late goals from Markovsky and a Jay O'Shea controversial penalty, making it 3-2 for the Roar. That's a crazy ending. I didn't think that was a penalty. Unlucky for the Jets, but the Raw finally get a win as well, which they do need. Coming, as I said, away from home against the Jets, who were also away, technically in Sydney, so bit of an even ground there. We'll then move on to the next round. Everyone back at home. Brisbane Roar 1, Macarthur FC 3. Davila scoring early. Borges Rodriguez scoring, and then Jed Drew, Markovsky again. A nice start now that he's scoring a couple of goals coming from NPL Victoria from Altona. Good to see him scoring. And then a Keegan Yelich red card at the end. Not a good return for him to the A-League. Former Perth player. And a red card in 17 minutes on top of that. So Roar losing again. Macarthur now, again, at least they're scoring goals. That draw last week, 3-3, now 3-1. They might be getting back into some form after starting off well. 3-1, good result for them there. Wellington Phoenix 1, Melbourne Victory 1. So Chapman scoring late, which did look like a winner from a corner, tapping it in. But then a late penalty to Wellington. Alex Rufus scoring, 95th minute. Good crowd there, I think. Best crowd for the season for Wellington on the Friday nights. 5 o'clock here on the eastern coast. 7 o'clock in New Zealand. I'm surprised they didn't push that to 7:30. I feel like that would have been better for everyone. More time for the Wellington fans to get to the game after work. I mean, 7's not too bad, but 7:30 extra. And of course, anyone watching on the eastern coast, 5 o'clock, pretty much just leaving work. I think a lot of people would have missed the first half at least. I know there was a game after that, but I think it still could have squeezed in, because this could start at 5:30, finishing at 7:30. The next game started at 7:45. I mean, or it could have pushed that to 8. Anyway, 1-1 there. Good game, good results. Again, victory drawing, and again a late equaliser, similar to the Mariners game before that. So I'll be a bit disappointed with that. Still undefeated though, but a lot of draws, and that's, I think, why Wellington would be on top, because they have more victories, ironically. Next game was Sydney FC 4, Newcastle Jets 0. back to normal proceedings. Patrick Wood, 40th minute chip goal. Lolly again, and Burgess 2 goals in 3 minutes to finish off the game. 4-0 there. That was a more expected result. Sydney FC bouncing back after that loss. The Jets again losing 4-0 though. Not a good look. Western Sydney Wanderers 1, Perth Glory 2. Finally, big result. Finally, an away win for Perth. First time in what now? Probably like 30 matches by now. I was sort of doing a counter in previous podcasts. I lost count. I think it was up to 30 or 1 in the last 30. It wasn't like they lost 30 in a row. So now it's 2 in the last 30. Doesn't look as bad. Kolokovsky scoring. Williams scoring late, which looked like the sealer. A bit of a nervy end with an Ollie Sale own goal. The ball bounced back off him from a corner. But yeah, that's a very surprising result. I mean, Perth had to win away eventually, but at the Wanderers is probably the least likely. So great result for them. Hopefully they can build up on that. Not just away, but at home as well. And get off away from the bottom. Central Coast Mariners 2, Melbourne City 1. Thea Harris scoring his first goal in a while. Ugarkovic scoring a late equaliser. Before an even later winner from Angel Torres. Storm Rue getting sent off. I think he already had been subbed off in a bit of a fight towards the end of the match, which was good to see. As I said, a lot of people say they do want to see that. Obviously, you don't step over the line and take it too far. It's not a good example for, well, anyone really. But yeah, you need a bit of that passion, as they say, and a bit of fight for the club. 2-1. So Mariners are just cruising along. How many's undefeated? I'll have to check the table when we get to it. 7 or 8 undefeated. Back to their best. I mean, it was expected after the changing coach and losing quite a few players for this season, especially considering their high standards from last season. But they look like they're back to their best, and should be pushing, well, making finals and going all the way nearly. And the final extra game was Newcastle Jets 3, Brisbane Roar 1. So a bit of revenge for the Jets there. Piscopo missing a penalty. Stamatolopoulos scoring though. Around a J. O'Shea red card. I think that was a bit harsh. That shouldn't have been a red. I mean, it was yellow, then VR upgraded to a red. I think that should have stayed a yellow. So J. O'Shea, big loss. And then Mirage just scoring to make it 3-0. There was a late goal by Majok, a lovely goal. But 3-1 to the Jets. So as I said, a bit of revenge there. We're all losing again. Let's just get into the table now. So the Phoenix on top, as we said, because of the more victories against the victory. 7 wins, victory only 6, despite having a 4-goal difference advantage and no losses yet. Worked that one out, but I mean, it would be crazy if they could somehow go undefeated and still finish second by just, well, drawing every game. I mean, they wouldn't even make finals if they drew the rest of the games. Anyway, so they're all both on 25. Wanderers 21. Actually, we've got 4 teams on 21 that round out the top 6. The Wanderers, the Mariners, City, and MacArthur, all on 21 points. They actually are all ordered by goal difference, coincidentally. But they all do have 6 wins, except for MacArthur have 5. That's, as I said, the ranking system now. But City and MacArthur have played the extra game. I didn't go over that one. The City game, actually, City Adelaide. I am recording this Saturday morning, but I'm just, Friday morning, Australia Day, but just ignoring the last match for now. I'll cover that in the next podcast. So this table is a little bit updated with that extra game. We'll ignore it for now. 7th and 8th, Sydney and Adelaide, 18 points each. Brisbane Roar, 17 points, negative 11 goal difference. Need to make that up eventually. 9th place, Newcastle Jets just below them after that victory over them, 16 points. Perth, 11 points on 11th position. And now there's a bit of a gap. Western United, 7 points. And at the bottom, negative 17 goal difference. They are having a shocking season. Only scored 11 goals, 9 losses, just 2 wins. And not many positives there. They need to turn that around quickly. I'm going to check the form table, which I like to check now. Now that's a bit more relevant. You couldn't really do that at the start. So Mariners on top as expected. I think even in the last 10 they're on top, yes. 21 points out of a possible 30 after that slow start. Nothing too obvious that stands out. Victory, as I said, still undefeated. A bit of obviously a streak of no losses. Let's go to the home table. Mariners on top. 14 points out of a possible 24. There's no real obvious home advantages here. Maybe the Phoenix with only 6 matches played and 13 points. Technically a better record. Victory 2, only 5. Obviously undefeated. 12 and 5. I just want to see anything that sticks out as like really good or really bad. We'll go to the away form. I mean, Perth are off the away form table, which is also surprising. Hey, Western United, 4 home goals only, which is shocking. 1 win, 4 losses. And the away form, Victory obviously undefeated there. Best away form, maybe the Wanderers as well. 5 games, 8 points. And then, Western United near the bottom there, conceding 20 goals away from home. Let's go to the top scorers now. And Stamatolopoulos is catching up to Bruno Fornaroli. Obviously, Bruno away with the national team at the Asian Cup. But Stamatolopoulos is catching up nicely. I think by the end of the season, he may have more games played. It depends on injuries and all that. Stamatolopoulos did miss one for a suspension. It doesn't say it in here on this table, but he is slowly catching up. Costa Barbarouses as well, out of nowhere. 8 goals now and 4 assists. Same as Joe Lolly and Taggart with 1 less assist. And then Ibasuki, Torres and McLaren. I can keep going down actually. Apart from Fornaroli, who just flew off at the start, I still think he'd slow down a little bit, especially when Victory may go down a little bit of a form patch. Probably can't do the undefeated season. All the way down to even Germain, I think, can win that Golden Boot. I know they're only on 6, but there's some good names there. And as you've seen, players can just go on random splurts. Literally, Davila scoring a hat-trick. McLaren, we know, can score a hat-trick. Torres has scored a hat-trick. Ibasuki scored a hat-trick. Taggart hasn't, but he can score 2 goals in a few games in a row. Lolly as well. And Costa's form. So, any one of those top 10 can win it. Still early. Well, halfway through, but it'll be a very exciting finish to see who's going to win that Golden Boot. So that's it for the A-League, the last 2 weeks. We'll do more next week, of course, or the next podcast. But now we'll go on to the fantasy and tipping. So let's go over the fantasy this week. I may do it a bit quickly, mainly because I did not score well the last 2 game weeks. They've been poor at best. 66 points last week, which was a rank of 3,500 out of, I think, how many players are this? Literally half. So not great. I've dropped quite a lot of rankings the last 2 game weeks. Let's just go into it quickly. I may as well bring up the last couple of game weeks. So I got 75 and 66. Previously it was 122, 140, 128. So all 4 game weeks. As I said, my last 2 round positions were literally in the halfway mark, and my overall position now, at best, I was 309th, which was literally those 2 weeks ago. Now I'm 653rd. And my team values dropped, so nothing positive to talk about. So I'll just move on to the next week. Keeping Paulson, of course. There have been quite a few missing players. I had Tim Payne get a red card, so he's not playing. Jay O'Shea got a red card as captain. I mean, there was a double game week, which balanced it out to get 11 points, but he got -4, so it would have been at least 15, and potentially the points he could have scored that match. So I was expecting at least 20. Not a great week. And even this week, especially with quite a few players that aren't playing, I still got a couple of transfers to make. I did bring in Hall from City, who did keep a clean sheet this week. I don't want to talk about that extra match that I missed because I am recording this a bit late. But I'm short, as you can see. Aquilina, I don't think is going to play. I don't know what's up with him. I brought him in. I don't think he's played yet. Then Zaki's out injured. Suprayan from City was injured, so I replaced him with Hall. Magic Adonmi, I don't think he's going to play. Did one game and scored against Victory. I was there to get 17 points. Hasn't gone on since. Anyway, I think I'm going to make a couple of transfers. It was Aquilina. I think I'm going to take out for potentially one of the Mariners defenders. I'm trying to think if it's going to be Paul or Docker who replaces Rue. I think it's going to be Docker. It makes sense, like for like, but I don't know. I've been seeing their last subs at some time. I think mostly Rue comes off for Docker, but Nathan Paul does come on sometimes as well and is a defender. But we'll see. I think he maybe is more of a centre back. But we'll see. I want to wait until the lineups get announced. Then I'll do it, which makes sense with his rolling locker, but I can't because the game just before that involves a player I also want to bring in, and I need the money for it because it's going to be a big upgrade. It's going to be Danzaki to Kraev. Now I have the money to make it from Danzaki to Kraev and Aquilina to Docker, but I need the money first in the bank to make that transfer. So I have to do the Aquilina to Docker transfer first. But as I said, that team lineup will come up around, I think it was 5:45 or something. I can't remember the matches are actually. Where's the... Oh, here it is. Mariners game, 7:45. So the lineups come out at 6:45, but the Wellington game starts at 6. So I need to do that transfer at 5:45, or 5:59 technically, but the lineups will not be out by then. So I'm going to take a risk and get that Mariners player in before the lineups are announced. So let's just hope it's Docker. Anyway, we'll see. And keeping the same strikers for now. Let's go into the recent statistics. We will sort by the total points. So Joe Lolly now is flying 215 points. He's quite clear of everyone. J.R. Shea, as we said, went down. Actually, no, these are only my... No, these are not my players. I thought it was on my players only. I did have a few of them up there. Average, though, I like the check. Well, Magic had done me 17, but Joe Lolly's killing it. His value now is insane. It's 761. I mean, I said it was too expensive back when it was maybe 600, but now probably worth it, to be honest. I should have done it, but oh well. Ulysses Davila now in great form, as I mentioned in the A-League review. 23 points in the last 3 games, average. He's up to 500. He was down heaps a few weeks ago, so he's back. Burgess, after his 2 goals, he got 37 points last week. Stamatolopoulos flying. Oof, that is tempting. I mean, he's a top goal scorer. Second goal scorer, he's only 300k. Costa, as we mentioned, up to 700. Gone cold. Arslan, well, he did get some points this week. McLaren, yes, has not done much this season. He's probably not worth his value at the start. Now he's worth his value because he's cheap, but not when he was at the start. It was nearly 600. Disappointing. Ollie Sale, Ryan Scott, a couple of keepers down there. Traore, that's a tasty value, but he does not always seem to play. So I think that's it for fantasy. I will move on to the tipping as well, which probably hasn't been too good either last game. I did forget to do the tipping this week, unbelievably. I think I would have picked City, to be fair. Easy to say that now. So the last 2 weeks I got 2 and 2, so coinciding with my poor results. Let's do the fantasy results I'm in. Melbourne victory versus Sydney FC. Tonight I'm going to go draw. West United versus Wanderers. That has to be the Wanderers. Newcastle Jets at home to the Phoenix. Mariners surely destroy the Raw. And MacArthur and Perth. Can Perth win again away from home? I'm going to go to MacArthur there. I'll save the tips for now. I think my ranking for this isn't that great either, especially after that game week. I'm 500 out of 3,000. So not too great either. Anyway, we'll just keep tipping and we'll hope to improve. I think we'll leave it there for the fantasy tipping and for the podcast. So we'll come back soon. I would like to squeeze one in maybe after the quarterfinals of the Asian Cup. We'll see how it goes. But there will be one more, I think, before the final at least. And then obviously squeeze in the A-League review. And I will focus a little bit on the NPL actually, especially in Victoria. We've got NPL coming up very soon in a couple of weeks. I think VPL as well. VPL 1 maybe, starting before VPL 2. I'll have to check. And then the state leagues, but they're a bit later. I think in March-ish. And then the Australia Cup as well, which I'd like to go through for Victoria, the preliminary rounds. Some very low leagues, obviously. State League 5 and even the Metro leagues and regional leagues. There will be a game, I think, in a couple of weeks as well. So I might just have a look at the draw. The draw has come out. Maybe just have a little look at that. That's, again, low stuff, but I do want to focus on that this season. Obviously still doing A-Leagues in Asia, but I would like to go down into the lower depths of the Victorian pyramid. So I will be doing that maybe not the next one or one of the next two podcasts. Anyway, until then, we'll see you then.